fellow Toastmasters. Is global warming a problem today? What are the concerns? The environmental community has become active in politics, and global warming is one of their issues. There's not much recent warming, so they updated to climate change. Is it caused by human activity? Carbon dioxide is increasing, we know that. It's gone from 300 to 400 parts per million in the past 50 years. Back in 2006, Al Gore presented a documentary film, An Inconvenient Truth, to educate citizens about global warming. The film has been credited with raising international awareness of climate change and re-energizing the environmental movement. The documentary has also been included in science curriculum in schools around the world, which has spurred some controversy. Great Britain required the film for secondary education. Science opponents sued. In 2007, the British court ruled that An Inconvenient Truth contained 9 scientific errors and must be accompanied by an explanation of these errors before being shown to the British school children. U.S. school children see the film as is. A Texas climatologist added that whether scientists like it or not, An Inconvenient Truth has had a much greater impact on public awareness of global warming change than any scientific paper or report. Another critic gave the film a negative review, saying An Inconvenient Truth is something you rarely see in movies today, a blatant intellectual fraud. Reason said that Gore gets the science more right than wrong, but he greatly exaggerates the risks. Climatology is a very complex subject. There's huge numbers of variables to be analyzed. There's a large amount of data. We're talking about changes over thousands of years, but we've only recorded data for the last 200 years. Early years, they have to use data from secondary sources. Tree rings, glacial ice samples, stalactites, other things they can search for. None of this old data is very precise. Many questions are raised about the data that the scientists are now using. Some leaked emails on some universities show they're shading the data to cook it to get their desired results. Some of them refuse to show the algorithms they developed to get the results. They say this is proprietary and won't let you see. So that other scientists using the exactly same input data get far different results. There's a lot of conflicts in analyzing these things. Many disagree with the computer models used to forecast these climate changes. And computer models do not forecast the current leveling of temperature for the past 18 years. You have a handout. The colored graphs show forecasts of various computer models for temperature changes. The 2 solid lines show the measured forecast, measured data. The 2 don't match. The climate models all forecast continuing increases. They're still arguing over it. Dr. Patrick Moore has been a leader in international environmentalism for more than 40 years. He's a co-founder of Greenpeace, but he resigned when it became radicalized. He is skeptical about the main cause of climate change and that it will be catastrophic in the near future. There's no scientific proof of this hypothesis, yet we are told that debate is over and this science is settled. His skepticism begins with the believer's certainty that they can predict global climate with a computer model. The Earth has been warming very gradually for the last 300 years. Ever since the Little Ice Age ended in 1870, is long before the heavy use of fossil fuels. Prior to the Little Ice Age, during the medieval warm period, which was the years 950 to 1250, The Vikings colonized Greenland and Newfoundland because it was warmer then than it is today. During Roman times, it was warmer long before fossil fuels revolutionized civilization. Climate change has become a powerful political force for many reasons. First, it is universal. We are told everything on Earth is threatened. Second, it invokes the two most powerful human motivations, fear and guilt. We fear driving our car or kill our grandchildren, and we feel guilty about doing it. Third, there's a powerful convergence of interests among the key elites that support the climate narrative. Environmentalists spread fear and raise donations. Politicians appear to be saving the earth from doom. The media has a field day with sensations and conflicts. Science institutions raise billions in grants, creating whole new departments. Business wants to look green, and they get huge public subsidies for projects that would not otherwise be economic, such as wind farms and solar arrays. Fourth, the left sees climate change as a perfect means to redistribute wealth from the industrial countries to the developing world. So we are told that carbon dioxide is a toxic pollutant that must be curtailed, when in fact it is a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas, and the most important food for life on Earth. Without carbon dioxide above 150 parts per million, all plants would die. The optimum level of carbon dioxide for plant growth, if they had enough water and nutrients, is about 1,500 parts per million, nearly 4 times what we have today. Greenhouse growers inject carbon dioxide into the atmosphere to increase the yields. Back when I was serving in submarines, we tried to keep the carbon dioxide in the ship below 1,000 parts per million, depending on the efficiency of our scrubbers. Industrial standards allow a maximum of 5,000 parts per million for an 8-hour day of human exposure. We have no proof of increased carbon dioxide is responsible for the Earth's slight warming over the past 300 years. There has been no significant warming for the past 18 years, while we emitted 25% of all the carbon dioxide ever emitted. Another scientist is Dr. Fred Singer. He pays particular attention to the 1,500-year cycle. This discovery analyzes that every 1,500 years the Earth's heating-cooling cycle repeats itself. Its general characteristics have been confirmed by measurements in tree rings, pollen, coral, glaciers, boreholes, stalagmites, tree lines, and sea sediments. The most recent cycles have been recorded in human history, and they correlate with forced migrations, starvation, and disease during the cold portion of the cycle, and greater population, expanded farmland, and greater crop variety during the warm portions. The causes of the 1,500-year cycle are not well known. They're still being studied. They seem to be caused by changes in the energy emitted by the sun. The last 25 years, they've had satellites measuring the sun's energy, and these are showing some changes. And by measuring with satellite, you can get accurate values of the sun without any distortion from the Earth's atmosphere. That's a new way to measure. There's still a lot of politics in this scientific debate. In conclusion, I do not believe the science is settled. The advocates making the strongest claims offer no convincing proof. Computer models do not predict the current hiatus in warming, as you can see on your handout. Most of the computer models ignore the recent severe fluctuations in the last 2,000 years. This was the Little Ice Age in the 1800s and the medieval warm period back in the 900s. I find Dr. Singer's discussion of the 1500-year repeating cycle more reasonable than the scaremongers. So I remain a skeptic of global warming as a crisis. For the politics, keep in mind, every human action that uses power can affect global warming. If authorities gain the right to control global warming, they can control every action any person takes. Any restrictions can be justified in the name of science. I'll try to handle any questions as long as my time allows. Do I have any?
It does look like from your graph that there is, ever since 1993, apparently some warming, if we're talking about those two dotted lines.
Two dotted lines, that's the surface and lower atmosphere. That's quite horizontal compared to all the forecasts.
Yes, that's true.
And that every dotted line going up is a statistical average of all the forecasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
You mentioned that the satellite is more accurate than the computer modeling. Can you?
Satellite's measurement of the sun allows you to measure more accurately. All measurements of the sun at the Earth's surface have been some distortion from the atmosphere for hundreds of years.
Okay.
But it's just a better way you can measure the sun more accurately. Question?
Yes, Richard. So you said it's a 1,500-year cycle. Is you feel is the best recommended or the best?
What I've been reading, that seems more convincing because historically it shows that way. They have, by going to these secondary, tertiary items, they find that it has occurred at this 1350 to 1500 year cycle repetitively.
Mm-hmm. And when is the last cycle? I mean, where did they start the 1500?
I don't know.
Oh.
Dr. Singer has a book which I have on order.
Okay.
I'll offer it in 2 weeks. Any questions?
Okay.
No?
Time's
The
up.
Toastmaster completed.